Ethan had a close friend he had known for many years. Whenever something happened, he would turn to him first. He told me that this friend was the only one he truly confided in. Finally, on our engagement day, I saw this so-called close friend. She was beautiful, wearing a snow-white long dress. She was Ethan's unforgettable first love. At that moment, the 7 years of my relationship with Ethan crumbled instantly. Ethan was recognized as the perfect boyfriend. His social circle was clean and simple. He understood boundaries and kept a respectful distance. He was attentive to everything about me. In the 7 years we were together, we never argued over a so-called third party. People envied us, finding it hard to believe that such a relationship could exist. Even my parents highly approved of him, unable to find any faults. For 7 years, no matter the occasion, he would pick me up from work on time, prepare delicious meals for me every day, and surprise me with gifts on holidays. He remembered my cycle better than I did and kept a detailed list of my allergies in his notes. Anything I liked, mentioned, or whimsically desired, he would buy and place in front of me the next day or after some time. He remembered everything I said and kept it in his heart. In those 7 years, Ethan never made me feel wronged. It was because of this that I loved him unreservedly and deeply. But we didn't get married early. At first, I thought it was because Ethan was busy starting his business, so he couldn't marry me early. I waited quietly, believing that we wouldn't have any problems and would eventually get married. Later, I found out that not getting married was his close friend's idea. He had a close friend named Jessica, whom he had known longer than me. I had never met him. Ethan said he was always abroad and rarely came back. I assumed Jessica was a man, and Ethan never denied it. On Ethan's birthday, I wanted to bring up the topic of marriage, so I bought his favorite wine and prepared a few dishes I had carefully learned online. I waited from 5 p.m. until after 11 p.m. The dishes on the table were reheated several times, but he still hadn't come home. I sent him messages, called him, and even asked his colleagues. Finally, at 12:30 a.m., Ethan came back.
Where have you been?
He was changing his shoes by the shoe cabinet, rubbing his tired eyes.
Jessica came to see me specifically to celebrate my birthday. I couldn't refuse, so I went with him.
I didn't say anything. Seeing my silence, he pinched my cheek.
All right, I'm back now, aren't I?
Yeah.
I responded, looking up at the clock on the wall. It was already the next day. Ethan realized this too, and his tone became even gentler.
You've been with me for 6 birthdays. What's one more year? Don't worry, all future birthdays will be with Mia. Don't be upset.
After all, it was his birthday, not mine. It was understandable for him to have a meal with his friend. So, I suppressed my low spirits and didn't argue with him. Ethan smiled contentedly and looked at the food on the table.
Mia rarely cooks. I have to try it.
He walked towards the dining table.
It's all cold.
No problem, the noodles are still warm.
He picked up the chopsticks and started eating in front of me. I smiled and sat with him.
Ethan, I have something to discuss with you.
Go ahead.
He responded, his mouth full. I picked up a napkin to wipe the soup off his cheek and spoke softly.
We've been together for 7 years. I'm already 27. Shouldn't we start planning our future?
Ethan, who had been relaxed, suddenly paused, then quickly hid it. Seeing this, I felt a bit uncertain.
After all these years, aren't we getting married?
Ethan put down his chopsticks and looked at the bowl of noodles, deep in thought. I didn't know what excuse he would use this time, but I told myself that since I decided to bring up marriage, I wouldn't back down.
Actually, Jessica asked me today when we would get married.
Jessica? Hearing that name, I felt inexplicably unhappy.
He told me not to rush into marriage. It wouldn't be fair to you. If we get married during my career peak, it might affect a lot of things. We might not even have time for a honeymoon.
Then we can skip the honeymoon.
I took a big step back.
But he also said that I would be under a lot of pressure. If I have to handle both the wedding and work, it would be tough to manage both.
Ethan spoke earnestly, genuinely taking Jessica's words to heart. I suddenly didn't know what to say. It was our marriage, so why was it always decided by someone else? Speak of the devil, Jessica suddenly called him. Ethan quickly picked up his phone and went to the balcony to answer. As the balcony door closed, I accidentally heard a voice from his phone. It was a woman's voice. When Ethan finished the call, Mia looked at his handsome face in silence for a long time.
I was waiting for him to explain, or subconsciously hoping he would say something to dispel my doubts. Unfortunately, nothing came.
He acted as if nothing had happened, continued eating, and chatted with Mia about trivial things, as if their previous conversation had never occurred.
Ethan, was that Jessica? Why did I hear a woman's voice?
Ethan kept his head down, hiding all his emotions.
Did you? You must have misheard.
He denied it. Mia was at a loss for words because Ethan and she had never lied to each other in their 7 years together. After hesitating for a while, she decided to let it go.
Well, I'm going to bed.
Ethan responded with a nod, not even looking up, showing no intention of comforting her. Feeling down, Mia went back to the bedroom. As she closed the door, she happened to hear his phone vibrate. On a whim, she turned to look. She saw him quickly typing on his phone, a faint smile on his face. Her intuition told her that the person was Jessica. After his birthday, they returned to their usual routine. Ethan picked Mia up from work, dropped her off in the morning, everything was just like before. Every day, Mia pretended everything was normal. Ethan didn't mention marriage, and she stayed silent.
But the issue weighed heavily on me, and I inexplicably started to fear Ethan, fear that our 7 years would be in vain.
Time passed uneasily, and one afternoon while cooking, Ethan suddenly brought up marriage and wanted to take Mia to meet his parents.
Really? I was a bit flattered and surprised.
Ethan smiled indulgently and ruffled her hair.
What? Are you getting cold feet and don't want to marry me?
Mia couldn't help but laugh and threw herself into his arms, playfully denying it. All her unease vanished, replaced by happiness. On the day they went to his house, Mia asked him what would be appropriate to wear. He told her a plain long dress would be perfect, as his parents didn't care much about appearances, as long as there were no tattoos or piercings. So, she dressed simply, trying to look her best with a plain long dress. They arrived at around 6 or 7 in the evening. His parents welcomed Mia warmly.
Mia is finally here, she said, holding Mia's hand and leading her inside, very kindly.
The dinner went well, and Mia successfully won the approval of Ethan's parents. They had a great conversation. After dinner, Ethan went to help his mom with the dishes, giving Mia a chance to look around his house. She took the opportunity to visit his bedroom. His room was as neat and tidy as he was, with various classic and ancient books on the desk. Mia casually picked up a book from the center of the desk, curious about its contents. Suddenly, a photo fell out. She picked up the photo and saw a sweetly smiling girl in a plain long dress, happily leaning against Ethan. For some reason, seeing her dressed similarly to Mia made her heart clench painfully. She didn't know who this girl was. She wanted to ask Ethan, but was afraid it was just a misunderstanding. What if she was his cousin or something? Wouldn't she be overthinking?
Mia.
A call from the door made her turn to see Ethan. His gaze shifted from her face to the photo in her hand, and his expression froze.
What are you looking at? He asked, reaching out to take the photo.
Who is she?
Ethan avoided her eyes.
She's no one.
How can that be? You have a photo together. You must know her.
Even though Mia was starting to doubt, she tried hard to suppress her emotions.
Mia, she's not important enough to discuss. He threw the photo into the trash in front of her, then hugged her and said, I love you.
If she's not important, why hide her so well? She gently pushed him away.
Mia, today is the day you meet my parents. I've agreed to marry you, so why are you overthinking?
Meanwhile, his parents called them from outside to have some fruit. Ethan pulled Mia out of the room. She glanced at the photo in the trash, her heart unable to calm down. Why couldn't he tell her? Was Ethan hiding something? Those days, Mia was always preoccupied. Even with Ethan sleeping beside her, she felt uneasy and uncomfortable. She even had a nightmare where that girl was Jessica.
The next day, I told Ethan about my nightmare. He laughed and gently pinched my cheek.
My dear wife, even your dreams are so imaginative. You deserve praise.
In the past, his words would have made me happily throw myself into his arms, but this time, they left a bitter taste in my mouth. Later, my mom called.
Mia, when will you bring Ethan to meet the relatives?
Mom, let's wait a bit. I'm a little busy with work.
All right, Mia, take your time.
Take your time. Those words made me ponder for a long time. How can I take my time? I'm almost 30. To this day, we still haven't gotten married. 7 years have passed in the blink of an eye, and I really don't know how many more 7 years I have left in my youth. Perhaps noticing my unease, Ethan took the day off to spend some time with me. While we were out, he held my hand the entire time.
How about we go out for a nice meal?
I'm not very hungry.
Seeing this, Ethan thought for a moment and then asked,
How about we go to that Japanese bathhouse you wanted to visit?
Previously? I thought back and realized it had been months ago. I had seen photos of the bathhouse on social media and loved the decor. I immediately told Ethan I wanted to go. But he kept putting it off, saying he didn't have time. Eventually, the matter was forgotten.
What do you want to do? I'll accompany you. You've seemed down these past few days.
His gentle tone made me forget my worries for a moment.
Didn't you want to see that new movie before your birthday? I promised to go with you when we had time. Do we have time today?
He paused for a moment before smiling and nodding. At the cinema, I sat next to him, enjoying my popcorn. I was laughing at the movie, thinking Ethan must be laughing too, given his low threshold for humor. But when I turned to look, he was expressionless.
The popcorn in my mouth suddenly lost its flavor, and I silently watched the movie. In the film, the female lead missed her chance at love and her last meeting with the male lead. The ending made me sigh. It seems the male and female leads won't end up together. No wonder Stephen Chow said the essence of comedy is tragedy.
No, 5 years later, the female lead returns to the male lead.
You've already seen it?
Ethan realized what he had said and turned to look at the big screen, his Adam's apple nervously moving.
Yes, Jessica came to see me on my birthday, and I happened to be free, so we watched this movie together. I forgot to tell you.
He watched the movie with Jessica? On his birthday? No wonder he didn't answer my calls that day, he was engrossed. Holding my popcorn, I felt a mix of emotions, and the movie no longer amused me.
Mia, are you upset?
Should I be upset or happy? It's your birthday. Your happiness is what matters, right?
Ethan didn't say anything else, his dark eyes fixed on me. I usually stayed for the post-credits scenes, but this time, I left first. Ethan followed me silently, holding my bag and the unfinished popcorn, but he didn't say a word to comfort me. We didn't speak at all until we got home. I stayed in the bedroom while he was in the living room. In the evening, he finally came in and asked,
What do you want to eat? I'll cook.
Looking at his usual good guy demeanor, I felt a sense of unreality. It felt so insincere.
Whatever.
I buried my face in the pillow. I heard his footsteps leaving and the sounds from the kitchen that followed. I wasn't really asleep, I was just pretending. I got up, worried, and stood at the door, watching the familiar figure in the kitchen.
The girl in the photo, is it Jessica?
Ethan's body stiffened, and he didn't turn around.
Ethan!
I called his name softly, hoping he would turn around and give me an explanation. But hope was just hope, he didn't turn around.
Ethan, can you stop avoiding this?
I rarely spoke to him in such a tone. He finally stopped holding back, slammed the bowl on the table, and shouted at me.
Yes, it's Jessica. Are you satisfied now? I don't understand why you're so hung up on this.
Am I the one being clingy?
Yes! I've told you, Jessica is my first love, not just a close friend. But we broke up a long time ago. Besides, we're about to get married. What else do you want to doubt about me?
I stood there, staring at him. Ethan didn't want to comfort me, he completely lost it and slammed the door as he left. I asked around and found out that Jessica's real name is Sophia. She and Ethan were childhood sweethearts, but broke up due to a long-distance relationship and other reasons. In 7 years, this was the first time Ethan had lost his temper at me like this, and it was also the first time we had such a big argument. I sat in the dark living room, crying for a long time.
Jessica is a girl, why didn't he tell me? For 7 years, I always thought they were just good buddies.
I couldn't help but recall the time Sophia was ill, and Ethan cried because he couldn't get a ticket for that day. He almost didn't sleep all night, looking lost and distracted all day. I foolishly thought they were just close friends. Now that I think about it, I realize how laughable and pitiful I was. I was utterly clueless, kept in the dark. After that, Ethan and I entered an unprecedentedly oppressive Cold War. Ethan didn't come home for 3 days. I was distraught, waiting for him. He ignored my messages, and his social media no longer featured my photos. I started to panic and feel scared.
Ethan, it's okay if you let her go. I shouldn't have doubted you. Can you please talk to me? I won't mention her again. I believe you. Our wedding dress appointment is coming up. Can you come back?
I sent one humble message after another, fearing that in my lifetime, only Ethan could make me set aside my pride and dignity like this. He was my first love, the person I loved for 7 years, and my entire youth. But even so, he didn't respond to me. I covered my face, struggling to breathe, holding my phone until 3 or 4 in the morning. Ethan finally called me back.
Ethan, where are you? It's my fault. I shouldn't have doubted you. Can you come back to me now that you're not angry?
There was a long silence on the other end of the line.
Ethan, please don't stay silent. Can you talk to me?
Stop crying. I've been out these days to help you choose a wedding dress. I'll take you to see it tomorrow. If you like it, we'll buy it, and then we'll get engaged the day after tomorrow, okay?
I cried and nodded, agreeing. But deep down, the heavy stone in my heart hadn't been lifted. I just didn't dare to bring it up. The next day, I put on makeup early and waited for him at the designated spot. After not seeing him for a few days, he looked a bit haggard, with faint dark circles under his eyes. He didn't say anything, just held my hand and took me to the bridal shop. I obediently tried on the dresses for him. A faint smile appeared on his face, tinged with a trace of fatigue. We reconciled without really resolving anything, leaving an unspoken rift between us. There were things I didn't dare to say, and he didn't want to talk about, one deceiving oneself, the other avoiding. On the day of our engagement, both families and relatives gathered, the excitement drowning us. The young host stood on stage with a signature smile.
First, welcome everyone to Ethan and Emily's engagement party.
Ethan and I held hands, standing behind the host. Countless eyes from the audience were on us, the blessings and applause making me extremely nervous. At that moment, I saw an unbelievable figure among the crowd. Sophia was dressed neatly, wearing a plain long dress, her hair up, with a pair of pearl earrings, looking elegant and composed. She wasn't looking at me but at Ethan, smiling through her tears. My heart trembled, and I slowly looked at Ethan beside me. His gaze wasn't on me but was fixed on Sophia. Between them, there was such reluctance, restraint, and even sadness. At my engagement party, they looked at each other silently, yet their hearts were connected, sharing the sorrow. I suddenly felt something between Ethan and me shatter completely. No room left.
Ethan, Emily, it's your turn.
Ethan's Adam's apple moved, then he smiled and took the microphone.
We're so glad everyone could be here. Mia and I have been together for 7 years. Today, our love reaches a perfect conclusion.
Ethan's gaze at me wasn't truly affectionate but was trying hard to hide his sadness.
Ethan, do you really love me?
Ethan just opened his lips, but his eyes involuntarily drifted in another direction. I followed his gaze. Sophia was still looking at Ethan, crying so beautifully that Ethan couldn't get the remaining words out of his throat. I lost, and it was a devastating defeat. At that engagement party, I hid my tears and fled, leaving behind all the clueless guests and Ethan. I knew exactly what I was doing, and I understood that I could no longer win Ethan back.
He never truly belonged to me. Perhaps he never really loved me.
After the event, I quietly returned home with my luggage. I ignored Ethan's calls and his parents' attempts to reach me.
Dad, Mom, it's over between Ethan and me.
They didn't ask anything, just looked at me with concern and comforted me. Although they didn't know what had happened between Ethan and me, they understood that their silent support was the best way to show their love for me. In the days after I blocked Ethan, I went to places I had always wanted to visit, but Ethan never agreed to accompany me. Lijiang, Yunnan. I walked alone by the sea, enjoyed the embrace of the beach, and took in the ancient city's scenery, savoring my freedom.
All these things that Ethan found boring were my favorites. I had forgotten when I started to give up everything I loved just to cater to Ethan's preferences. 7 years of effort, was it just to move myself?
I laughed at myself, and then I cried. The youth I had poured my heart into had vanished into thin air. Half a month later, I returned home from Lijiang, feeling gradually healed. To my surprise, Ethan was waiting downstairs at my apartment. I thought I had forgotten Ethan deep down, but seeing him made me stop in my tracks, my feet feeling as heavy as lead. Ethan was sitting at the entrance, and in the half-month we hadn't seen each other, his hair had turned a bit gray, and he had dark circles and stubble, looking like a sick man.
Mia, is that you? Mia.
His eyes filled with tears as he slowly stood up, gazing deeply at me.
I thought I'd never see you again, Mia. Where have you been? I couldn't reach you. I was so scared of losing you.
What do you want from me? You have someone else in your heart, don't you?
No. It's not like that. Sophia was indeed my first love, but we ended a long time ago. I only kept in touch with her as a friend. Her feelings for me are her own business.
What a lack of responsibility. How did I ever think Ethan was perfect?
Ethan, you never rejected her.
Ethan was momentarily speechless. The neighborhood was empty under the night sky, with only a few cold winds blowing through. Tall buildings rose from the ground, dotted with lights.
I've liked you for 7 years. I wanted a future with you, even fantasized about being your wife. In my dreams, I was so happy that the real me envied it.
Mia. Give me another chance, give us another chance, please? I'll cut all ties with Sophia. I only want you. You'll be my wife. We'll go to Lijiang for our honeymoon. You love it there, don't you?
I've already been there. I don't need you anymore.
One sentence left Ethan visibly shaken.
I once begged you, tried to keep you. I gave up a lot for you, thinking that would make us happy together. But unfortunately, things didn't go as planned.
If it weren't for Sophia, maybe we would have been together. Who knows?
Ethan, I'm going home. You should move on with your life too.
I dragged my suitcase past him, not turning back even when I heard his sobs. All good things must come to an end. Ethan and I never had a truly beautiful journey. It was all a lie, a dream he wove for me. Dad and Mom told me about Ethan waiting downstairs every day when I got home.
Let him be. He'll move on eventually, and so will I.
Mom hugged me and kissed my forehead.
Daughter, everything will pass. It's okay. Your dad and I are here for you.
Yes, I still have my loving family. I'm not alone. Many people love me. I don't need Ethan's uncertain love.
I thought my words that night were final and heartless enough, but Ethan went out of his way to get a new number and called me.
I want to marry you, Mia. Tomorrow, I'll propose to you again. If you refuse, I'll propose a second, third, fourth, countless times until you change your mind.
Relentless. That's Ethan now. I ignored his words and went back to work, fully immersing myself in my job, focusing on earning money and improving myself. He waited for me downstairs every day, so I left through another door. When he waited outside my apartment, I rented a place elsewhere to avoid him. As long as I could avoid him, it would eventually end. When he couldn't find me, he kept calling, so I had to block him again. On my day off, I went shopping with a friend.
Look at that uniquely decorated coffee shop. Let's go in.
But as I turned around, I saw a scene through the glass window. A man and a woman were sitting together. The woman was elegant and beautiful, the man well-dressed. They were chatting and laughing, their eyes full of each other.
Hey, isn't that Ethan? And the woman next to him, isn't that Sophia?
Realizing she might have said something wrong, my friend quickly tried to pull me away.
Hey, why bother with coffee? Let's go have hot pot, my treat.
Why should we let some outsiders ruin our mood? They are them, we are us. Just because we knew them once doesn't mean we have to interact with them now. This is my favorite coffee shop. Why should I give it up because of them?
My friend stared at me wide-eyed, then laughed.
Mia, you're really something now.
I smiled and led her to a window seat. I always liked sitting by the window. As soon as we sat down, Ethan and Sophia noticed us.
Why do I feel like he's staring at you? And not blinking?
Whatever.
I ignored them and enjoyed my afternoon tea with my friend. Suddenly, a figure appeared in front of me. I looked up, and it was Sophia.
Hello, are you Mia?
Yes, I am. I know you, Miss Sophia.
She wasn't surprised, her eyes soft yet dark.
I heard that because of me, you and Ethan had a big falling out. I'm here to explain. I didn't mean to come between you two. I just can't forget Ethan. If my leaving can help you reconcile, I'll buy a ticket and leave tomorrow.
What a hypocritical speech.
Crocodile tears.
Sophia heard it, of course, and gave my friend a cold look before continuing.
I hope you and Ethan can get back together. After all, he truly loves you.
Truly loves? Loves the emptiness, maybe?
I didn't respond, my smile ambiguous as I looked at Ethan, who was waiting anxiously not far away. Sophia must have volunteered to persuade me, and Ethan believed her. Even now, he still doesn't understand boundaries.
No need. Tell Ethan for me that there's no chance for us anymore. But since we once knew each other, I sincerely wish you both happiness.
With that, I left with my friend, not looking back, even though I heard Ethan calling my name. But the ridiculous part was, he didn't even chase after me, just stood there calling, fake and cowardly. A month later, my life was back to normal. I had found myself again, the bright and shining me was back. I took my parents on a trip out of the province and checked in at various tourist spots with my friend. Life and career were visibly improving. And at this critical point, Ethan managed to find out my address from a colleague. I looked at Ethan, who refused to leave my door, feeling a headache coming on. How long was he going to cling to me? Like a stubborn stain, impossible to shake off. To avoid gossip, I opened the door and let him in. After months apart, I was doing better and better, while Ethan looked more and more disheveled. His suit was unpressed, his shoelaces were tied in a knot, he hadn't shaved, his eyes were bloodshot, and he had forgotten to trim his nails.
How long are you going to keep pestering me?
Mia, it's been 2 months. Have you calmed down? I've already cleared things up with Sophia. She's leaving tomorrow and will never appear in our lives again.
It's not her that I care about.
Then what is it?
Even now, he still didn't understand.
Ethan, in the 7 years we were together, I was always deceived by your facade. I thought you were someone who understood boundaries.
I will be from now on. I won't make the same mistake again.
I subtly avoided him.
Boundaries are a constant rule between couples. You didn't change in 7 years. Should I give you an 8th year? Isn't that too much to ask?
Ethan left, looking utterly dejected.
I'll wait for you at the place where we first met. No matter what happens, whether we end up together or not, I'll be there.
That night, Mia pondered deeply. Should she go or not? Despite their entanglements, the result seemed inevitable. If they separated, regret and reluctance would shadow her.
One must look forward. Our love story may seem enviable, but it's just a facade.
The next day, Ethan sent her a message on WeChat.
Please add me back. Even if it's just as ordinary friends.
All right.
I'll wait for you here until midnight.
Mia glanced at the message and continued with her work. By 6, it began to rain. She felt an inexplicable worry. Was Ethan still waiting? She checked WeChat, no updates. Feeling it might be her karma, she took a cab to their meeting place, hoping this encounter would make Ethan give up. As she stepped out of the cab, umbrella in hand, she searched for Ethan in the pouring rain. But no one was there.
No sane person would wait in this weather, right?
She looked towards a nearby building, thinking he might be inside. To her surprise, she saw Ethan and Sophia.
I don't want to leave, Ethan. I love you.
Ethan hesitated, drenched from the rain.
You're my only wish, my obsession.
Sophia moved closer, wrapping her arms around Ethan's neck, kissing him passionately. Mia stood silently, listening to the ringing in her ears. Right before her eyes, Ethan responded to Sophia's kiss. Until their eyes met.
Mia! Mia!
Without looking back, Mia got into a taxi, ignoring his desperate chase. In the rearview mirror, she saw him fall, looking both pitiful and pathetic. She deleted Ethan from her WeChat, removing his presence completely. She felt a weight lifted off her chest. 2 years later, Mia moved to Hangzhou, started a new career, and lived happily with her parents. At 29, she met a new boyfriend.
Mia, I love you. We've been together for almost 6 months. Marry me.
Overwhelmed, Mia was speechless.
I can't wait another day. Marry me.
Their wedding in Hangzhou was grand and romantic. On that day, Mia received a transfer of $50,000 from Ethan's account. She remembered, after all these years, he still lingered like a ghost.
What nonsense. Why is he giving me money? Poor Sophia.
But she didn't turn down the money. She bought her husband several perfect suits and ties and set up a nursery for their future baby. Life was getting better and more fulfilling.